Hello, it's Doug from Behind Closed Doors, and today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Men and Divorce Court, Greg Ellis and Jordan B. Peterson. Now, I've been looking forward to watching something like this for a long time because Jordan Peterson called the guys that went MGTOW, which stands for Men Going Their Own Way, he called them pathetic weasels.
There's a whole group online called Men Going Their Own Way, MGTOW. That's a very interesting group to go study. There's lots of them. I don't know how many of them there are, and most of them are older. Many of them are men who've been through a particularly horrifying divorce for one reason or another, and they've had enough of women. So they tell the young men that they're teaching, never have a permanent relationship, never share your territory with a woman, never share your possessions, make sure you never live together, and don't stay with one long enough to enter a common law relationship because you'll be stripped of everything that you have. I don't want to have anything to do with women. It's like you're a pathetic weasel. That's the same statement.
And then later, when asked if he regretted anything, he retracted the statement by calling them pathetic weasels and said that they had a point.
Is there a concrete example of something where you said something, and I'm not thinking of anything in particular, I'm being entirely genuine here. Is there an instance where you feel you said something that appeared to be true to you at the time, and knowing what you know?
Yes, I think I was a little dismissive of the men going their own way. Now, the reason I regret calling them pathetic weasels is because they also have a point. I do believe that the court systems are staggeringly anti-male, absurdly, horribly anti-male. And I've seen my own clients, some of them who are really, really decent, hardworking, family-oriented people, demolished by the court systems. And so the men going their own way have a point. And so I'm sorry that I called them pathetic weasels.
So Jordan's obviously had an experience whereby he's become a little bit more red pill, and he's discovered that there may be something not quite right in the system. And I think if Jordan knew how bad the system was, all his 12 rules for life mean absolutely nothing. The philosophy behind those books are based on the idea of competence, but competence doesn't matter in a family court. If you're a man in a relationship with a woman, you're in a very vulnerable position, whether you're married or not. And so it'd be very interesting to see how this conversation plays out. So let's get into the video.
Hello everyone, I'm here today with Mr. Greg Ellis, a best-selling author, TV director, Annie Award-nominated voice artist, and Emmy Award-nominated actor. He's appeared in Oscar-winning movies, directed Hollywood superstars, produced and written television shows, starred in Broadway musicals, and voiced animated characters for movies, television series, cartoons, and more than 120 video games.
So he's successful then.
His major motion picture film credits include the Pirates of the Caribbean series Titanic, Star Trek, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Beowulf.
So he's very successful.
His television credits include 24, X-Files, CSI, Dexter, NCIS, and Hawaii Five-0.
Bloody hell, I'm worn out already.
With his production company, Monkey Toes, Mr. Ellis has written and directed projects for Kiefer Sutherland and Stephen Fry, who's been on this podcast. He's also the host of several popular video podcasts, and he additionally founded the child advocacy program, The Respondent, which inspires family champions through his non-profit CPU, Children and Parents United. His book...
What a brilliant idea, kind of the opposite to parental alienation.
His book, which we're going to concentrate on today, at least to some degree, is The Respondent.
A great title for a book, because anyone that's been in a family court setting, you as a guy is probably the respondent.
Exposing the cartel of family law. It's a call to action, and a necessary one, to reform the one branch of our legal system that does not provide the presumption of innocence. Family law.
I've done several videos on here about the family court, so you can go check them out, and anyone who has watched those knows my stance on it. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, well, that's quite a claim that branch of family law, that branch of law does not provide the presumption of innocence.
Yeah, this is where I'm really interested to see where Jordan's stance is. If he gets it, or if he doesn't get it, or if he does and he's in denial, it'll be very interesting to see, because I think that Jordan thinks that reality matters. And in a family court, reality doesn't matter.
So maybe we could start by exactly what you mean by that and why you would make that claim.
Well, yeah, through personal experience. First of all, thank you for having me on, Jordan. It's great to be on your show. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Yeah, family law, the only branch of our legal system where there's no presumption of innocence. Murderers, rapists, terrorists, pedophiles all get more legal rights than law-abiding citizens. And the silver bullet, as I call it, the silver bullet playbook or paradigm of high conflict divorce, the smoking gun of this corrupt legal system, that's become the go-to strategy for divorce lawyers that guarantees victory, and they encourage the petitioners and the respondents to use, usually petitioners, to utilize this strategy, usually the false allegation of domestic violence.
Yeah, because that gets profit. You can get funding for that. Like I said in other videos, people make so much money out of creating the conflict so that it's encouraged. Conflict is encouraged in a family court and it's rewarded in a family court instead of reasonable behavior.
To win in court, to get the cash and prizes, for want of a better phrase. And you know, when I had no idea of the words family law before what happened to me in 2015. And
it's one of those things in life that unless you're going through it, you don't realize how bad it can get or how bad it is. Same with anything really, isn't it? You know, I don't know this guy, Greg Ellis, but I can see in his face and I can see just by the setup of his story that if we were to meet, we'd probably have a lot in common. Yeah, and we'd be able to resonate with each other in a way that somebody who hasn't gone through a horrific experience wouldn't be able to resonate with.
And once I started investigating through experience and through talking with other experts in the system, outside the system, it became clear to me that we have a real issue here. And if we can improve or reform the family court or the family law system, expose the cartel.
How can you expose it? I don't know what the rules are like in America, but over here, you can't even talk about it. I mean, that's why I call this channel Behind Closed Doors, because it's kept behind closed doors so that nobody can ever discuss it.
Of family law, as I call it, because it is like a crime syndicate, these quasi-kangaroo courts that they have. You don't get the presumption of innocence. You don't get your rights read to you. I've spoken with fathers in particular who've been ended up in court with false allegations of domestic violence. One told me a story about he put his wrists up and said, "Your Honor, arrest me. Have the bailiff arrest me." And the judge said, "Are you crazy?" And the gentleman said, "No, if I'm arrested, I'll get the rights that a criminal has. Miranda rights, access to an attorney, etc., etc." And of course,
that is so true. Because there's, from what I remember, there's a balance of probability, which is family court, and there's beyond reasonable doubt, which is criminal law. And so you can get a solicitor for one if you're kind of accused of that, and you have a right to remain silent and all that kind of stuff. But that's not true in family law.
And of course, those who are suffering the most are the people who don't have the wherewithal or the financial resources to be able to have representation. And even those who do, if you are the respondent, you are behind the curve. It is.
Yeah, I mean, look at Greg Ellis. I mean, he seems to be quite successful, and I'm sure he had money to be able to burn on solicitors or barristers or whatever you spend your money on over there, but they just put it extortionate prices. Like, the more money you have, the more conflict they'll create and the more money that they'll take from you and your family so that your children won't inherit it. Again, this is what I've covered in other videos, so I don't want to go over it. If you want to go and see, people spend millions of pounds on these, family court things, and so they end up having to sell a house that's worth millions of pounds in order to cover the legal fees. So it can get really bad. So don't think that just because you're rich, you're going to, skirt your way around it, because the more you have, the more they'll take.
It is the presumption is that you as the accused have to prove your innocence, rather than the accused, which is Western jurisprudence, has to prove their case.
Yeah, because reality doesn't matter, like I said earlier.
So I think
it seems like in our society, in a lot of strange ways, the accuser now seems to have almost an untrammeled right to be believed.
Yeah, so when you apply for a non-molestation order, it's called in this country, and you say, I believe that this may happen, using the words I believe and may and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't even have to be something that's happened. It can be something that you're kind of prophetizing from the future based on your emotional temperament of what you think about this person. If you write something along, if you're in a relationship with a guy and you write down something along the lines of, I believe that he may hurt me at some point in the future, it doesn't even matter what it is. It could be emotional abuse. It doesn't even matter. Like, then they could just say, I believe that he may hurt me at some point in the future, so I need the protection of the court, blah, 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 and just invent something, like something that you think they might do, and you sign and date it. Well, that's now a piece of paper that's signed and dated by yourself, and so that's evidence. So that's all you have to do, is just get a lawyer to sign and date something, and that's evidence.
Non-molestation orders were introduced to prevent the former partner from coming within a certain distance, and occupation orders also introduced, which can be issued without notification, to prevent the ex-partner using the threat of homelessness as a form of intimidation. To make sure these orders worked as effectively as possible, the normal rules governing the admissibility of evidence were also lifted, and the court may impose such an order with no actual proof of intent other than the mother's own belief that the ex-partner is likely to be dangerous or remove her from the marital home. Providing the mother tells the court that she believes these things may happen, the judge is entitled to make such an order, and any appeal or so-called finding of fact will be limited to ascertaining the mother's feelings at the time the order was made, rather than looking at any burden of proof. Despite the well-intentioned purpose of this legislation, these orders have earned the scorn of fathers who believe these laws infringe their own civil liberties by depriving them of a fair trial. Unfortunately, these changes have made it easier for unscrupulous partners to use the law to make unfounded allegations so they can remove the father from the upbringing of their children and effectively allow the mother to take possession of the marital home.
For the majority of the time, the women that are doing this are doing it in order to gain legal aid, and they're the predators in the relationship. So the predator is getting anonymity in order to be able to exert power and control by using court orders for coercive controlling behaviour. It's magic. It's absolutely bloody astounding. It's not just that they're lying. They are the perpetrator. They are doing all the things that they're saying that you might do. It's crazy. And yet everything, the whole court process, plays out based around their subjective feelings as a perpetrator. It's absolutely bonkers.
And there's an increasing insistence on that in our culture as well, which is, for example, this is a bit far afield, but German chemistry journal the other day, scientific journal, published their new guidelines for authors in the aftermath of a scandalous chemistry paper they published, which hypothetically offended some people, that now authors have to be, what would you say, governed by the realization that their words will be interpreted by those who read them and that they have the final say, those who read them. And so,
yeah, you've really got to decide who's in charge. You see, the thing is that Jordan Peterson harpens on all the time about responsibility. But in order to be able to have responsibility, there's got to be accountability, and you've got to be able to have authority. Authority and responsibility are inextricably linked through accountability. So the moment that you take away authority from responsibility, then there's no accountability, if that makes sense. So, example, Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. Be responsible, be responsible. Your ability to respond to what's going on around you. Be responsible. But in order to do that, you have to have authority. But in most cases, you don't have authority. So how can you be responsible? How can you be responsible for something that you don't have authority over? Like, say, for example, I'm going to drink out this cup. I'm allowed to pick the cup up, put it in my mouth, put it back down again. I have authority over the cup. So if I drop it, I'm responsible and I'm accountable for breaking the cup because I was exerting authority over it. So if I'm drinking out this cup and I drop it and break it, I accept full responsibility and accountability because I had authority over it. Now, if I put this down and somebody else picks it up and throws the cup across the room and it smashes everywhere, and they look to me and go, oh, Doug, you're responsible for that. Well, how the fucking hell am I responsible for it? I didn't exert any authority over it. It's not my problem. It's not, I didn't create that. That's not, how can I be accountable and have responsibility for something that I have no authority over? And yet you got people throwing cups around everywhere and then pointing the finger at somebody else. And it's just sort of like, and then the law says, yeah, you're responsible. You're the respondent. You're responsible. But how can you be responsible for other people's crimes? It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, and online too, you can be accused of virtually anything and then mobbed for virtually anything. And
The first time I ever saw Jordan Peterson, he was getting mobbed by some of the people that attended a school that he worked at, and he was being defended by the other people. And, I really saw in that video his strength of character and his durability against conflict. And it was really impressive because I watched that video for about 2 or 3 minutes and I thought, I like this guy. Because they pulled the camera out on him trying to catch him unawares and he wasn't trying to hide anything. If I ever attempted to leave the house with my child, I had a mob of people around me and I had to phone the police to get them off me. It's absolutely crazy what goes on.
And it's virtually impossible to defend yourself. And this notion that merely because someone says they've been offended, let's say, in the mildest of cases, that means you have definitively done something wrong there's a pervasive.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well, because you get all these orders on you. I went to court 15 times and you have all these orders on you and people think, well, he must have done something wrong. You don't have to do anything wrong. Absolutely nothing. You can do everything fine. You can do everything perfectly and it will still, the system's designed to destroy you. And again, Peterson talks about this in one of his other videos. And this is where my frustration is with Peterson, because he knows all this stuff, but it's like that God thing. Like, when the atheists say like, oh, I don't believe in God. And he's saying, well, you're acting as if you do. Like, he's saying that competence matters when really he knows that it doesn't really matter.
Horribly anti-male. And I've seen my own clients, some of them who are really, really decent, hardworking, family-oriented people, demolished by the court systems.
What happened in your case? You were the respondent in a divorce case, which you didn't see coming. That's correct? I read your book. It was a while back, so I'm pulling all the bits of it back into my memory. But
yeah, this is where you go from being blue-pilled to red-pilled.
Let's go through the story exactly. And
Sure, and just very briefly to that point, yes, victimhood has become the new social currency. Its economy is booming, and where victimhood is rewarded, responsibility never follows. So it's part of the reason I call the book The Respondent. It's the defendant in a family law case, and the petitioner is that person who actually instigates the proceedings. So what happened to me in the span of, I'd say, around 8 hours. I'd been married for 20 years, 2 children.
This starts to remind me of hypergamy. There's a thing in a book by Rollo Tomassi called The Rational Male, and there's an extract from it called Hypergamy Doesn't Care. And so that kind of reminds me of this.
Accept hypergamy as a woman's operative state at all times. The most common words you hear newly divorced men utter is some version of, I never saw this coming in my wildest imagination.
What happened to me in the span of, I'd say, around 8 hours. I'd been married for 20 years.
We were married for 20 years. We have 4 kids. How could she be over me so quickly?
2 children, 2 boys.
A lack of understanding the basics of hypergamy is exactly why men are blindsided. Hypergamy doesn't care how great a father you are to your kids.
2 boys, the meaning of my life. We did everything together. I was that engaged, loving, present father.
Hypergamy doesn't care how sweet, funny, or intellectual you are.
Family was my everything.
Hypergamy doesn't care how inspired or fulfilled you feel as a stay-at-home dad. Hypergamy doesn't care if you never saw it coming. Hypergamy doesn't care if you're bitter.
Doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter. What you think and say and do, you bastard, male member of the patriarchy, it doesn't matter. All that matters is how she feels. Yeah, I think people underestimate how much men love having a family and how much they are there to serve the family and how much they enjoy doing that. And they overestimate a mother's love. There are many evil mothers in this world, in the same way that there are evil fathers. But we're allowed to talk about the evil fathers. but no one's allowed to mention the evil mothers.
Family was my everything. And,
How old were your boys at that point?
10 years old and 8 years old at the time.
Okay, and you said you've had quite a stellar career, and obviously we're very busy doing that. So
Yep, and women date across and up hierarchies, yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Well, he's kind of top of the tree, and I'm sure he tries to be precise in his language by what I've heard of him so far, and I'm sure he can wear a nice suit and all the other rules for life. I'm sure he's got a nice tidy room, but it doesn't matter, Jordan. No, reality doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter.
in what sense was your family at the center of your life?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think my now ex-wife and I we drifted somewhat to become a well-oiled marriage machine. The avoidant in her and the anxious in me couldn't quite get close enough. I think Pia Melody calls it the co-addicted love tango, where.
It sounds a bit much to me. Like, one of these things is that, like, you see, this Greg Ellis guy, I really like him, but he's gone a bit red pill. He's had an experience of the red pill, and now he's trying to worm his way back into the blue pill. He's trying to think that, oh no, it's just the family courts that are the problem. Oh, and making up excuses for the behaviour that was exhibited. Oh, they're on medication, or this happened, or we had different communication styles, blah, blah, blah. And he's trying to slip back into the blue pill mentality to advocate, kind of trying to white knight it a bit, trying to advocate responsibility for the situation. And I'm here to tell you, because I think a lot of guys do this. They kind of make up excuses or look for reasons as to why it doesn't matter. Or we think, oh, what if I'd have done things differently? It doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter. Nothing matters. So once you accept that, once you realise you can't find logic in an emotional person, and the whole court system revolves around that emotion of however that is expressing itself at that time, don't worry about it. It'll just drive you insane to look for logic in that situation. To make up excuses for your ex-partner in a family court setting isn't a very good idea, because they're usually your enemy. Even though you don't want them to be. They are, because they choose to be.
We were kind of swaying back and forth, trying to get closer, but drifting apart. I would be out of town filming a movie and return, and she'd go out of town because she wanted to work, and I supported that. I would have preferred she stayed home.
Hypergamy doesn't care how you rearranged your college majors and career choice in life to better accommodate her.
But she wanted to work, so I was like, great. So we worked our schedules out.
Hypergamy doesn't care.
So we worked our...
It doesn't matter if you're a great partner. It doesn't matter if you're a great dad. It doesn't matter if you just kept giving and giving and giving all the time. Nothing matters.
Our schedules out that we could be present, and much of my work was in town in Hollywood, at one of the studios. So
I had a busy career, but I would still say, as you did, that my family was the center of my life. If I had to choose,
I agree as well. And I was not as successful as these two, but I was still a successful entertainer. I was a magician. And so what I'd do is I'd work on the weekends for a few hours and get paid enough for it to last the week. And I'd work locally. So I could work full time doing a job that I really enjoyed. And I could be for my children there the rest of the week, taking them to school every day, laying down, sorting them out day and night. And I had a sick child as well. And so all my time was consumed, 90% of it, by taking care of my children, and 10% I was lucky to make enough money locally to be able to pay for the rest of everything else. So I was a full-time worker, and I was a full-time dad, and I'd say, and I had a very fulfilling career, and I'd say that my family life was much more meaningful. But it still doesn't matter, because reality doesn't matter, and hypergamy doesn't care. All that matters is what your ex claims to feel about you, even if they don't believe it themselves.
Existentially, between my family life and my career, I would have chosen my family life. But I was busy and working, and well, you have to be busy and working to actually support a family. So, but it's a strange claim in some sense, right? If you have a career that's really moving forward at a rapid rate, how you can claim simultaneously that your family is still the most important thing to you.
Well, not really, because you've got the Pareto distribution that he always goes on about. So it becomes easier through doing less work. You know, I mean, if you've got an audience of, like, he's got near on like 5 million people now, and you release a product, it's going to be much more vastly successful than if you've got an audience of, say, 1,000. So it's the more successful you become, the more easier it becomes in some sense.
If you have any sense, is so that you can bring stability and opportunity to your family. And that means, in some sense, you can't be with them all the time, but they don't need that anyways, because they should have some autonomy. So, okay, but now you said too, your marriage, you said you drifted apart a bit with your wife. And so when this happened, this 8-hour period that you're describing, did you think afterwards, oh my God, I should have seen this coming, or I did see this coming, or has it remained a shock to you? And then what do you think about the fact that it was a shock? I mean, because obviously the thing to wonder is, well, were you willfully blind, and should have you seen this coming? And I'm not claiming that you were. These are, they're genuine questions, but people are going to wonder, obviously.
I mean, me personally, before he answers it, I had faith in the system. I thought, well, reality matters. This is what I'm digging home. Like, reality doesn't matter. I filmed my ex doing all sorts of horrific child abuse, and it still didn't matter. Nothing matters, because evidence doesn't matter. Because all that matters is what she says. So it doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Yeah, well, look, in the span of 8 hours, I was ushered from my home in handcuffs.
Standard.
At the behest I later discovered of my ex-wife.
Of course. That's the thanks you get.
I was committed to a mental institution.
That's how gaslighting works.
Against my will, the first of 5 incarcerations.
Of course it's going to be against your will. It's all against your will. You want none of this to happen. If you're going to divorce me, at least do it nicely. But they don't.
There was also an incarceration in I called it solitary confinement, but it was a singular jail cell, subjected to a temporary restraining order in divorce court on the basis of a false allegation that eventually was disproven some 6 months later. But by then, of course, the reputation savaging had been done.
And also, the status quo has been set because the children are now living with mother, and it's based on where the children are located at the time of the separation. It's based on residency, when it comes to child arrangement orders and stuff. That's another reason why they want to get out of the fucking house and either in jail, dead, or locked up in an institution somewhere. They don't give a fuck.
And it was all over by the shouting. I became homeless and almost destitute overnight.
Standard. Haven't we all? I was living in a van.
And lost my professional reputation. I wouldn't say it was irretrievably destroyed, but in the small close-knit community that I lived in.
Well, the more of a reputation you had, the more it would have been destroyed. So say, for example, if you're someone like Brad Pitt or Johnny Depp or someone like that, then you're going to suffer a lot more with that.
In Hollywood, close to the studios, it certainly took a big dent. And
everybody lives in a small, close-knit community like that if they're working. I mean,
and all the community turn on you, and that's why I know that I'm kind of rambling on a bit here and I'm ranting a bit, but this is the heart of Behind Closed Doors, because I'm aware of all this shit. And I know that there's loads of people in the red pill community that say, oh, stay away from women, never get involved with a woman. And I can understand that and I appreciate that. But I'm saying that there are ways around it. You can find love again, let's say, or you can get a good life partner, or you can get a girlfriend, or you can get a wifey or whatever. Like there is a way forward, but it's very difficult, and there needs to be positive solutions to these negative problems.
Working. I mean, the immediate people that you are in contact with and working with intensely tends to be quite a small number. And it's quite interesting when you get tarred and feathered, the people around you get afraid of the contamination
They don't get so much afraid of the contamination, as a result of the stories that they hear about you. They get disgusted, they get angry, they get indignant, there's a lot more, it's a lot more hatred that gets put upon you. And again, I think Jordan and this guy have been, even though they were aware of it, this guy's obviously experienced it, and Jordan's managed to avoid it throughout all these years because, Tammy hasn't destroyed him in any way. So Jordan doesn't appreciate it in the same way that Greg does. But even Greg is kind of like making up for, it is Greg, his name, isn't it? Yeah, Greg Ellis, yeah. Because they're nice guys, they're trying to kind of make up with excuses for it and work around it and go, well, it's just some women in some of the time, da 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 da. it's not a man woman thing. It's more of a case of the individual versus the system kind of a thing. It's the group versus the individual. That's the problem. It's the mob versus the individual. That's the greater problem with this whole white knight thing.
Real quickly, and that's partly because they look at what happened to you, and then they also think, well, you know, we don't really know what went on in the marriage, and people are capable.
We don't know what went on behind closed doors. That's what I fucking hate. That's why I called the fucking channel this. Like I said, it's like, well, you don't know. Oh yeah, he's a great guy and all that, but you don't know what happens behind closed doors. It's usually the fucking woman that's doing it all, because the woman runs the household. She sexually selects, and then from that sexual selection, they use the guy for whatever they want, and then they just claim victimhood at the end of it after they've siphoned off all the valuables. That's it. And everybody knows it's going on, but nobody seems to fucking say anything about it. And if they do, nobody cares. That's the other thing. Reality doesn't matter, and nobody cares. They're the two lessons. They're Doug's 2 rules for life.
People are capable of terrible things, and maybe there were things that we don't know about, and then they're split because they knew you and your wife, and
yeah, maybe she was a complete fucking dickhead. And I know all this stuff about, again, Peterson's like, well, you know, you should respect your wife and all that kind of stuff. You should when she's your wife and she's trying to be a good wife. But you shouldn't be when she's trying to get you locked up in a mental institution and stop you from seeing your children while simultaneously destroying the career that took you 20 years to build. I need a breather.
And so it gets complicated instantly, and then it's easier for people just not to have that
It's not complicated. It's very simple. Don't be a cunt.
much to do with you, because they also have choices, right? Because they know a reasonable number of people, and it's...
Yeah, this reminds me of that film, Crazy Stupid Love, where the guy in it says, oh yeah, we can no longer be friends because my wife said so. I'm like, the weakness of these men is disgusting.
And it's then maybe you fall from number 1 or number 2 on their list of people to invite to like number 15, and they only ever invite the top 10. And so people don't even have to turn their backs on you that much in order for you to be, well, friendless. And so these and the allegation, what exactly was the allegation, and why do you think that your wife felt compelled to make it? And how do you think she rationalized that to herself if it wasn't true?
Oh, Jordan. Right. Okay, so you haven't got to worry about what they're thinking about. This is, I think, Jordan's... You know, like how Superman has kryptonite? It's sort of like Superman is fucking Superman. There's no knocking Superman. But he does suffer from the old kryptonite problem. Same with Jordan Peterson. He's Jordan Peterson. I'm not knocking Jordan Peterson. I admire Jordan Peterson greatly. But his kryptonite is caring about what other people think and thinking that reality matters. And using other people's opinions. Like, you've not got to care about what they're doing or why they're doing and all that kind of stuff. I understand why he wants to do that, because he wants to logically put it into a framework so that he can conceptualize the world and work around it to get the best outcome, da-da-da-da-da. But it doesn't matter.
Oh, come here, kids. Come on. It's all right. Don't you worry.
Oh, for God's sake, will you give me those? They're mine. Let go of Daddy. Let go of him. Let go of Daddy.
That's a great question.
Who cares what she was thinking?
She had been diagnosed with panic disorder. She wasn't
Haven't they all?
taking her medication. She was out of town. And she had called the police on this particular day, March 5th.
She had a bad day. She was on a period. Like, the milk had gone off. Who fucking cares? No offense to your ex-wife there, mate.
And she'd asked them to come to the house. I'd actually taken the afternoon off. I was at home with my sons, playing in the playroom with them. And she asked them to...
Playing in the playroom?
Them to come
I wish I had a playroom.
to the house.
I'm not rich enough to have a playroom.
Come to the house and said that I was confused. And the dispatch said, we can't go to the house if he's confused. She said, well, what do you need to hear? And they said, we need to hear he's a threat to himself or the children. And then allegedly sometime later, I think 45 seconds later, she called them back and said, she said, my husband's just told me, quote, I'm sick of this shit. I'm gonna harm the children, end quote.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. And I'm laughing from a place of the ridiculousness of it. And I'm also angry and upset for this man. It's what I find is, he is right. And the thing is so absurd that you can either get upset and suicidal and angry and hurt about it, and you can descend into the old chaos thing, or you can, like a South Park episode, you can kind of laugh at the absurdity of it all. So instead of getting hurt and upset by the absurdity of the situation, you could try laughing at it. And I find that to be a much more positive response. It's very weird and peculiar as well.
End quote. And those 10 words, that 10-word lie was the basis of law enforcement coming. First it was 2 to my front door, then it was 3, then it was 5 and a sergeant, and the massing garrison, the threshold of my home, without cause, without a warrant.
Because reality doesn't matter.
My rights were trampled.
What rights? You think you have rights? Rights? This is a family court, mate. You don't have rights. Do as you're told. You know, to some people that are viewing me who are slightly blue-pilled may think I'm like overreacting here. But people who are red-pilled know exactly what I'm fucking talking about.
The police entered, a SMART team from the DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services, came in. I was shackled in handcuffs with a bar.
Standard shit.
Behind my back in a quite affluent neighborhood with the...
The other thing that pisses me off, as I'm on a rant about things that piss me off about this situation and what happened to this poor gentleman, is that everybody pretends that they care about the welfare of children, but nobody really gives a shit about your children. They only give a shit about the mother and her feelings about you.
With the curtains wide open on a Thursday evening.
Right, well, that would be a little hard on your reputation, all right.
Won't it?
Yeah, I would say so.
And
then,
of
what
course,
are people going to think? Or what are they going to think?
Well,
They're going to think the whole police system is corrupt and that this is all made out of nothing and he's actually innocent. It's like, it's pretty damn hard for people to jump to that conclusion.
It's hard for Jordan to jump to that conclusion. Then when the men turn around and say, to a younger guys, be careful what you do because they can do this, that, the other. They're pathetic weasels.
It's like you're a pathetic weasel.
That's what pissed me off about him. I love Jordan so much. I agree with him 99.9%, except for that 1%, the thing that he actually did, to be, in all fairness, retract.
Now, the reason I regret calling them pathetic weasels is because they also have a point.
He did all these amazing things, and still it doesn't matter. He's the father of the child, but still it doesn't matter. All that matters is how I feel, and I'm not happy, so I'm going to have to leave him. Fuck what everyone else wants. I can't negotiate. I'm going to go and find some other dick. It's fucking ridiculous. It pisses me off because the whole idea of Jordan's thing is take responsibility, man up, and all that. Can pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but it doesn't matter because that works in reality and in when you go and do a professional job and such. But it doesn't matter in a family court. It doesn't matter. You can wear a suit if you like, but it won't make the woman any more or less attracted to you. If she's decided to like you, she'll like you in a bloody hoodie. If she doesn't like you, she won't like you in a hoodie. So it doesn't matter. You think that you can influence attraction. It's kind of arrogant to assume that you can get women attracted to you. It doesn't matter what you do. A woman's either attracted to you or she isn't. And there's nothing you can do about it. And there's nothing she can do about it. If she's attracted to you, she's attracted to you. And there's nothing she can do about it. She's not attracted to you. There's nothing she can do about it. And vice versa, the same for you. So this whole stuff about put on a suit, stand up straight, speak precisely with your words, build your way up the hierarchy, all that kind of stuff. It goes by the wayside because attraction isn't a choice. Desire isn't a choice.
Of course, what then happened was, I was kind of bundled into the back of an unmarked police car and, raced off into the middle. One of the most heartbreaking images I remember was looking up from the back of that police car and seeing my son, my eldest boy, Charlie, at the window.
Live.
And
with me it was my daughter. My daughter broke my heart when I saw her crying, and she was like, "Daddy, don't leave, don't go," and all this kind of stuff. It's just, even now, I have nightmares about it. And I had 2 boys and a girl, and all my children were affected by what happened in their own separate ways, and nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit.
Jordan,
yeah, that's rough, man.
And I may come across as angry and resentful, and I am. But I've handled it myself, and it's only when you talk about it that it brings up all those emotions again. And Peterson goes into this thing whereby you either need to, if you're feeling resentment, that I think it's something along the lines that he says that you need to mature in some way or take responsibility for something or kind of like grow up a bit and face life, or there's something that is actually gone wrong and you need to talk about it and say about it. So let's say that that's what this video is. This is kind of therapy for all the anger and resentment that is generated unnecessarily by the family court in order to destroy the family home for profit of the feminists.
Jordan,
that's rough, man.
It's soul destroying. It's not just rough. It rips your fucking heart out your chest.
My son's childhood at 10 was over. I knew what was coming: spousification, adultification, the vilification and the erasure of me as a man, as a father.
But the mother doesn't care, doesn't give a fucking shit, and the system is rewarding her for her criminal acts.
As a patriarch, as a provider. And I was also...
And you're the scapegoat to everything. The scapegoat to everything. And that's why, again, well, after you've been through all this shit, and then you hear Jordan Peterson, it's like, well, you got to take responsibility. The guy did take responsibility. That's why she married him in the first place. That's redundant.
Heading into a terrifying unknown, a dystopian odyssey. I talk about it as if it's some kind of Kafka trap, but it certainly was Kafkaesque. And then, of course, the word on the street. I mean, some of the stories I later heard back were absolutely insane. I mean, he's armed, he's psychotic, she was telling everyone that I was psychotic and I was bipolar.
Yeah, it's the reputation destruction. Again, Jordan Peterson knows about this. And it's how women express aggression. You know, it's not because she's confused and on medication and this, that, the other. It's because she's fucking angry and she's pissed off at the fact. And what they get angry at, I think, is because they go from loving you to hating you. And it's encouraged by society in order to hate the man. But they flip around so quickly from loving you to hating you. It just repels in the opposite way. It's scary how unreal it is.
All of these messages came through my children as well when I eventually got to see them. And there was no end in sight. It was just down the rabbit hole we go. And of course, I thought I would get justice.
Yeah, so did I, mate.
Naively,
the justice system is mostly there to stop people who can't reconcile their differences from wreaking social havoc.
Well, that's not true, Jordan, because that's why the family court exists. This is what I don't get. I think I'm going to have to stop watching this and do a part 2 or something, because that's not true. Well, if that's what the family court wanted, their agenda would be reconciliation for peace. And mediation. They'd encourage mediation, but they fucking don't. You can just supersede it with an unmole. So this is where it's difficult listening to this shit. So
that's basically what it's there for. Do you think you're going to go to the justice system and get justice? It's like you'll be lucky if it doesn't destroy you once you're tangled up in it. So
this is where I'm confused, because he's saying one thing and then saying something else.
So it nearly did. It nearly destroyed me.
I mean, it didn't. It's amazing that it didn't, and that you managed to get through this. And so, okay, so this happened, and then you're off to the police station. And the thing is, the police are going to view themselves in a situation like that as white knights, right? Because they've come in.
See, he's red-pilled a bit. He knows what a white knight is. All right, I'm going to have to stop it there because I'm getting very emotional, and this is a very touchy subject for me, and I can't look at this with some distance. I'm getting all excited and everything because, and we're only a bit into the video, there's loads of it left to go, so I've got plenty more to say on this topic. But yeah, I think the topic of this video, or the thing is, that I want men in particular to know, and I know this happens to women as well and mothers and stuff, but it is predominantly men because the whole thing's sexist. I just want people to know that, who have been destroyed by the family court, that it's okay. It has nothing to do with you, and reality doesn't matter. Like, because I think that people think that reality matters, and to those outside of it, I would say the same thing. Don't judge what you think has gone on because you don't know. Until the court documents are released to the public and the evidence is shown, you can't see how corrupt these child abusing judges in the family court are, and the magistrates, and how corrupt all the solicitors and the barristers and the lawyers are. It's disgusting. Anyway, let's finish on a positive note. If you are a guy and you've been through the family court and you want to start dating again and you're not having much success online, get my course because it'll help you get more dates and you can go make the same mistakes all over again. Hello, my name is Doug and I've created a video tutorial called What to Message a Girl for Online Dating Success. The reason why I've created this product is to help those men out there who are dating online but are not getting the replies or getting the dates that they desire. My product will teach you what to message a girl, what not to message a girl, when to message a girl, how to respond when you're not sure what to write, what to do if she doesn't reply, how to get her phone number, and how to communicate to get online dating success. If you're getting matches and no success, this product is for you. It's what you need to do today to start getting success with your matches. I'll also be talking about other issues such as how to spot red flags, identify time wasters, to stay out the friend zone, how to deal with ghosting, simmering and icing. Not only will I be giving you exactly what you need, copy and paste, I'll also be explaining to you the reason why I'm writing what I'm writing so you can understand the psychology and know what behaviours to look out for and which ones to avoid. This product is packed with value. I've tried to cram as much as I can into a short amount of time as possible while being the most informative. If you're a man and you're confused and frustrated with what to text with online dating, this product is the solution for you to get more dates in less time. Click the link in the description box below to buy the product and change your dating life forever.